Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. My name is Abhi. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at Abnormal. And I want to talk to you about why attackers love your security settings and what you can do to protect against this. So, when you look at misconfigurations, they are risks that are hidden in plain sight. We've seen several instances of how attackers have exploited overlooked email settings to breach organizations and also to hide their tracks once they breached an organization. In the last couple of years, there was this very high profile incident with a company that provides cybersecurity training services to other large organizations who was breached, and nearly 25,000 business critical records were exfiltrated from this particular organization. Now, this happened not on account of a 0 day, not on account of a vulnerability. It was because of a single email misconfiguration that was changed once the attackers got in. But because the security team did not have visibility into this change, they were unable to stop this. And the abnormal threat research team has also seen an uptick in calendar phishing attacks. Now, these are attacks that use the tactic of someone sending a calendar invite that automatically gets added to the employee's calendar, and they think these are legitimate invites, and they end up joining the Zoom link or the Teams link in that particular invite, and then they get phished through that method. And there are ways to stop this. And the reason these invites are getting auto added into these employees' calendars is because, again, a very poor configuration on how to treat calendar invites. And lastly, we've also seen Scattered Spider, who is notorious for abusing energy misconfigurations to phish organizations and then deploy eventual ransomware. Now, even though we know that misconfigurations can be exploited, why do they stand up? And what do I mean by misconfigurations? To give you an example, when we talk about misconfigurations, we're talking about misconfigurations in your Microsoft 365 environment. Things like unauthorized auto forwarding settings, things like hidden inbox rows, permissions around mailbox delegation. Sometimes there might be excessive mailbox delegations. If you don't have visibility, you cannot clamp them down. Issues around privileged users who have overly permissive roles, accounts where there are missing admin multi-factor authentication, and many, many more. In fact, the Center for Internet Safety has put together a very comprehensive guidebook on how you can go ahead and have these configurations reflecting the industry best practices. Now, this is found in the CIS Microsoft 365 Foundations Benchmark Guide. And when you open this guide, you see this. Now, this is basically a list of all the different configurations that must be enabled a specific way so that you can meet those benchmark standards and keep your organization safe as they deliver goods and services to your customers. And every single line item in this document here is a configuration that needs to be configured a certain way. I want to pause here because while this might seem like a lot, this is only 2 pages in a document that is over 300 pages long. In fact, during conversations with my customers, there was one organization where one person had their Friday cleared out for an entire period so that they could go ahead and look through these individual line items and then ensure that they were correctly configured in their organization. So we know that misconfigurations are bad. We know that there are guidances and prescriptions on how to go ahead and fix these configurations. Yet, we're seeing attackers exploit these misconfigurations. And this is on account of, number one, the complexity of configurations in your Microsoft 365 environment. Like I said, we just saw a list of items that need to be configured. These are numerous. A lot of these settings are very layered. And so it's often very easy to overlook risky configurations. Additionally, once you go through these audits and processes and configure these systems properly, you also need continuous visibility. You need to be able to understand when one of these configurations are changed because of a potential account takeover, or in many instances purely because of oversight or a mistake. And lastly, once you identify these configurations, you have to go ahead and then fix them. again, when talking to customers, they realize that a lot of these configurations affect business critical collaboration and communication software. And so improperly configuring these, or having a knee-jerk reaction and setting them to be extremely regressive, could potentially result in business interruption or service interruption. So I know a lot of organizations have some of the most seasoned and senior employees go ahead and work on these remediation tasks. But senior employees and their focus is often required elsewhere to address more pressing needs. And as a consequence, the amount of effort that goes into reducing this is also very high and demands a lot of time. And hence, it's one of the reasons why a lot of these misconfigurations tend to stay up longer than they're supposed to be. And at Abnormal, we were trying to understand how we can help our customers address these misconfigurations in their environment. And so to give you an overview of why we're in a good place to do this, I want to talk about how Abnormal works very quickly. Now, through our API, we ingest several amounts of information on your environment, and then our core email security product, it learns all the different people in your organization, and it then understands the behavior of those people in your organization, which helps us to go ahead and stop phishing and things of that nature. And we realized that we can extend this approach to managing misconfigurations in an environment too. And as a consequence, over the last year or so, we decided to build a product to help address this particular solution. And what this particular solution would essentially offer to combat the challenges that we just saw is that it would simplify your email security posture management. We could use AI to basically provide instant visibility across the entire Microsoft 365 environment that you now have. Now, this would eliminate the complexity and the confusion that arise from having extremely complicated settings, environments spanning multiple tenants and organizations. And once we have the baseline visibility, we could again use AI to essentially identify any sort of drift from existing security postures that could potentially be risky. Now, this would ensure that none of the risks go unnoticed. And lastly, one of the great use cases for generative AI is that it is able to take large amounts of information, synthesize them, and then summarize them in a manner that is extremely effective and easy to follow. So when it comes to remediation, you no longer have to rely on senior people in your organization who have the expertise, who have the skill set to go and make sure that this particular risk is remediated appropriately without causing any business interruption. We can now provide step-by-step instructions that would eventually even be used by junior employees to go and drastically reduce the manual effort that takes place as it relates to remediating your security configurations. So to secure your email security posture, there needs to be a fundamental rethink on how you're approaching email security posture management. We recommend that organizations should move from reactive manual audits that take place either every quarterly, in some instances every 6 months, to proactively using AI-powered posture management. And instead of doing periodic audits to find configurations that had changed or that have deviated from the norm, having continuous monitoring is what is going to help you capture these risky postures. And lastly, instead of having uncertain remediation plans and having extended timelines, we recommend switching to using expert level recommendations to go ahead and fix these issues as and when they arise. And this new way of managing your security posture is made possible by the Abnormal Email Security Posture Management module. Now, this is an add-on to the core email security platform that Abnormal offers. And I want to give you a brief overview of what the solution does. So when you use email security posture management from Abnormal, one of the first things we do is we ingest all of your configuration related data through our API, and we instantly are able to compare these against the benchmarks set by Microsoft and also benchmarks that are set by the Center for Internet Safety. Remember the 300-page book that one of our customers was manually going through and auditing? You no longer have to do that. We can automate the entire process for you, and we would immediately give you an assessment of how your different security postures in your Microsoft 365 environment are faring. and also give you a prioritized list of critical risks that you can go ahead and fix. Now, we do not limit ourselves to just recommendations from the Center for Internet Safety. We also share the threat intel that we gather from across our customers. One of the great things, one of the most unique things about Abnormal is we have insight into over 3,000 customers. So if we see a particular configuration being used by a bad actor to potentially breach or compromise accounts or potentially take over accounts in certain organizations, we can now bring that insight back into your organization and give you recommendations on changing and remediating a particular risky configuration that is being used in an emerging attack. Now, this visibility is not going to be available for you in any other product. Like I said, the benchmarks from Center for Internet Safety and Microsoft 365 do not cover emerging attacks, but with our email security posture management product, you will be able to have that particular set. Additionally, we also have a changelog in the product, which gives you a very quick snapshot of understanding what are the risky clusters that have been changed in your environment, and also who in your environment changed this. And so this gives you an insight into whether an admin user went ahead and made some changes, which is what we want to happen. But if you see users who are not supposed to be making changes to configuration settings, end users, that can also be caught here. And in a very quick time frame, you have visibility into all the different changes that are happening that are both detrimental to your security posture. Also, you have visibility into all of the positive changes that have been done by users in your environment that is improving your security posture. And lastly, as I said before, generative AI is one of the biggest use cases is the ability to synthesize complex information and to make it easily consumable for anybody. And if you go into the email security posture management module at Normal, we also give you step-by-step remediation guidance for every single posture that we have evaluated and found risky in your organization, which makes it easy for you to either delegate it to junior employees that can go and fix these configurations in your organization. So in summary, I would like to say that if you are looking to eliminate unknown email security risks in your Microsoft 365 environment, you need to do three key things. Number one, you need to proactively gain visibility into your security posture across your entire environment. And once you have this visibility, you need to be able to benchmark them against established standards to make sure you're following the best practices and guidances on how to configure settings in your organization. Once you have this visibility, you need to be able to continuously monitor and detect any sort of risky posture deviations that you might find in your organization. And once you have visibility into these deviations, you should be able to quickly prioritize and act on these risky configuration changes by going ahead and remediating these. So these are the three key recommendations that we suggest you implement in your organization to secure your email security posture management. And to learn more about email security posture management, you can go to our website. Thank you so much for taking the time, and hope you have a great rest of the day.